welcome back to another episode of Why I Love BNI, your podcast spotlighting different businesses in different chapters on what they love about their business, helping their community, and of course, being a part of the BNI family. So today, I'm super excited to have my guest Katina with us today. Katina, thank you so much for the time today. I really appreciate it.
No, I'm absolutely delighted to be here and looking forward to it.
I think this will be a lot of fun, and it's super great what you're doing. So, Katina and I connected a few weeks back, and she also gave a presentation at one of our BNI online roundtables, and she just did a fantastic job. And I was like, we need to connect. I think we're doing something super cool. So, here we are. So, why don't you just tell everyone a little bit about what you do and how you help people?
Sure. So my name's Katina Phillips, and I am the founder and CEO of Florida Funding Source. I spent 30 years in the banking world supporting small business owners, and about 4 years ago, whenever the bank I worked for was going through a merger, I decided that it was time for me to hang my own shingle and sign my own paycheck. And I will tell you, it is scarier in real life than it is on paper, but I wrote a business plan. I determined that it was something that I could actually do, and we launched. So, what I do now, along with my team, we are a small but mighty team. We help small business owners and entrepreneurs that have a borrowing need primarily get their business plan together, get their financial projections put together in a way that creates answers for underwriters and not questions. And then we'll also come right alongside that borrower and help them fill out all their application paperwork, help them with every form that goes along with an SBA application. And we also do some consulting with the client throughout the project so that by the time they're ready to meet with their lender, they understand what the process is going to look like, what kind of questions they can expect to be asked, and really just be overly educated on the process, because educated borrowers get answers quicker and usually better.
Definitely. I mean, especially because you deal with a lot of new businesses or startups or those looking, through this new transition period. There's a lot of newness to the business owner, and they don't realize, it seems very innocent of us to just be casual in our conversations. But when you're writing out a lot of these documents, you have to be very precise with your language. And that's something that a lot of us have no experience with. So that's where you come in and you really help people polish it up and make them seem like they really understand what's going on and that the lender completely understands what's going on as well.
Absolutely. It's really important to us not to put words in our clients' mouths, but to
Mm,
make sure that the words that came out of their mouth gets to the page in a way that's concise and creates confidence with the lender or the underwriter that's reading it. My experience has been most of the time when someone's writing their own business plan, it's very heavy with their past experience and resume type information, but really light in some of the other areas that are really important to an underwriter. So we
mhm.
just come alongside and fill in any of the blanks and round out the information so that it's concise and compelling.
Yeah, and that's so awesome that, you created this company as well to do that, to really help and be an advocate for the business owner, because you guys work for the business owners. You guys don't work for the banks or the lenders or anything like that. So you always have the client's best interest at heart. That being
Absolutely.
said,
Wait,
I
oh,
oh,
I was going to say, I
no,
didn't mean to interrupt you,
no,
but
you're good.
way to get my tagline in there. We don't work for the bank, we work for the borrower.
Exactly, and I mean, I think it goes to say that I remember what your tagline is because it's so powerful to me, and it really resonated with me when I first heard it, so I still remember it now, and you can kinda see it behind Katina as well in her background. Um, there you go. But I'd love for you to talk a little bit about, like, maybe if someone's listening to this and they go, "Oh my gosh, I can definitely do this something like this on my own," or, "Is this something where Katina can help me in?" or anything like that. Just help educate people a little bit on, like, helping them identify that, oh, they definitely this is something that they should come to Katina about.
Sure. So I'll tell you and your listeners what I tell most clients whenever we're in the initial conversation. What you're doing, you are going to treat like a task, but what it
Mhm.
really is an investment. And what I
Mm.
mean is small business owners are busy. They are running their company. They're up early. They're, doing everything they need to do. And they're going to notch out a little bit of time to get this process done because it's a check mark on an application checklist. But it's so much more than that. And whenever they hire us, we treat it like the investment it is, primarily because I spent most of my career reading other people's business plans and then having to go back and ask the questions that weren't answered. So we do everything really from an underwriter's perspective when we are putting everything together for our client. But the way someone would know they probably should reach out to us is if they're building their financial projections because the lender has asked for them and they're not quite sure how to incorporate a new division. We're currently helping a client right now who is putting 50 extra trucks on the road and 100 extra employees. Now, he could have written his own projections because he's got some longevity with his business. He could have done a look back and pulled in the projections. But where it gets a little tricky is, how do you show the lender that those 50 trucks and 100 employees are going to generate revenue? That's kind of easy. Where it gets more difficult is, how are you going to show the lender that you've also taken into consideration the expenses that are going to go along with building that revenue? So how much is it going to cost you to onboard 100 new employees? What are the training expenses? Are you going to buy them uniforms? You're going to put 50 trucks on the road. How much are you going to pay for insurance? What are those leases going to look like? How's that going to impact your bottom line? And when someone turns in a set of projections to a lender that don't take any of those things into consideration, the lender is automatically starting to think about, what other things did this owner miss? What other surprises are going to pop up? So
Mm,
projections for expansion, or any type of loan that's going to add revenue to your overall business picture, those are good times to engage a professional for that work. And then the person who's just too busy, maybe they could do it themselves. Their accountant would do it for them, but they're going to charge them quite a bit more than we charge, and they don't think like underwriters, they think like accountants. And so we really bring the best of both worlds together. We think like accountants when it comes to getting everything on the spreadsheet, but we also think like underwriters and want to make sure that everything is there so that the underwriter is really confident in the information that they're looking at. So I know that was a lot of words to answer a very short question, but people need us. One, if they want to make an excellent impression with their lender and they don't have time to do it themselves, or they just simply know it's all up here in my head and I need somebody to ask me the right questions so that I can get it out on a business plan that's formatted in a way that's going to be pleasing to the underwriter or the lender that's reading it. So
definitely, especially when you're mentioning, like, having it in your brain and trying to get it onto paper. Sometimes we forget that's a struggle. I don't know why, like, if for I know for my dad and I, like, when we work together, we're just talking out loud 90% of the time, and then we're like, "Wait, what are we even talking about?" And so, like, we have someone talking and then someone writing it all out, and then you look at it and you go, "No, that's terrible. Why did I say that? Why did I think that was a good thing to say? No, we have to fix this." So it's really funny how everything like that works. So this is a great topic, and I know we could talk about this for a few more hours because there's so much education that goes into it. But number one, I'll make sure I have all of Katina's information in the description. You can click, copy and paste, reach out to Katina if you have any questions or any like reservations or anything that you might like, hey, maybe she can help answer or guide, at least guide me in the right direction. So just switching gears a little bit, I would love for you to share a little bit on, who's the first person that invited you to BNI? How'd you find out about it?
well, I have had a pretty long BNI history. And so I wish I could remember the name of who invited me first, but I can tell you the first person in a BNI chapter that really impacted me. So
Mhm.
maybe I'll just kind of not answer your question. I'll answer the one I want to answer.
Sure.
Um, I joined a chapter in Orange Park. It was probably 20 years ago, maybe longer. And there was a gentleman there by the name of Roy Buncombe. He was an IT consultant, and he did the first one-to-one with me that I had ever done and really took the time to explain to me what BNI could be for somebody who was willing to put the time and effort in. And he is my friend to this day. I adore him, and not just because he taught me how to do BNI, but we became good referral partners as well. And I've got many relationships that I developed in BNI over the years, but I'm going to give Roy credit for potentially being the first person to invite me, but definitely being the first person to sit down and do a one-to-one with me.
Mhm. That's amazing. So, I mean, it sounds like your BNI journey is a few years long at least. So, in the past 20 years, how have you seen BNI change?
Well, I mean, there's a lot more automation now. I mean, back
Mm.
whenever I first joined BNI, we had sticky notes that kind of looked like this, that you went in and you wrote down how many referrals you had and how many one-to-ones you did, and you turned those in, and that's how your vice president kept up with information. And so certainly automation.
Mm.
Um, there's so many more opportunities. Again, way back then, it's not that you couldn't go and visit other chapters, but it really hadn't been developed as a concept. Now someone like
Oh.
me, who has a fairly unique category in BNI, as long as you let that chapter know you want to come and visit, you really have so many more opportunities to grow your business and to network and to find additional resources that might not be in your chapter. So it really, I mean, it's always been a global organization, but now we have access to the BNI globe. You can get whatever you need from wherever you need it. There's almost always someone in BNI doing whatever it is that you or your clients looking for. So I think that there's and also definitely more sophisticated education. BNI's
Mm.
always been about educating the people who join, but the opportunity and the options for that education with podcasts and training, and just so much at your fingertips, you really get more than the bang for your buck nowadays. So I would say definitely those advances. And then also for me, like the change in my personal BNI journey, I joined BNI originally. I was a banker working in a community looking for, exposure to people who would need me. That was kind of what I thought I was going to get. And over the years, I began to count on my BNI chapter much more for the resources that I needed for the clients that I was serving. I moved from a community that I was very familiar with and had tons of resources in to a new market. And in that new market, I didn't know who the plumber in the area was. I didn't know what back then who was selling copier services. And so joining a BNI chapter in a community that I didn't have resources in, it became monumentally important to have those relationships. And then over time, when I transitioned from corporate America to owning my own company, now BNI really is my primary marketing channel. I
Mm.
mean, most of my marketing dollars goes towards my BNI, membership dues, and it's where a lot of my business comes from as well. So,
That's
it
amazing.
as BNI has evolved, so have I.
Yeah, and that's amazing that you're able to now trust your BNI family when bringing you, new just everything in BNI. It sounds like everything in your business and personal and stuff like that. So being able to trust them and having those resources is huge. When you're trusting them with, your home or the things, your personal services and stuff like that. And that's definitely not a trust to be taken lightly. And yeah, I know. I remember, not remember, I should say, but my dad shared with me when he first joined BNI 20 plus years ago, that they had, like, books, and that's how they kept track of everything, and I'm like, "That's
Mhm.
crazy." Like, the
Yes.
app is so easy now. I'm like, "Yeah, I met with Katina, I met with this person, I met with that person. None of them are in my chapter right now, and I'm just meeting around and having a great time." And so it's wild to me that there was ever a concept when you didn't have it. So, it's super cool to learn about things like that. So, Katina, I really appreciate you taking the time. You just did so much education I appreciate that so much because you are doing some really great stuff for businesses, those who really want to make sure that their dream is being realized and you're helping them get there. And that's so special to be a part of, I know. So thank you so much for taking the time today. I really appreciate it.
Absolutely. And I appreciate you just taking the time to, to get the word out for us. And I'm really looking forward to working with you on future projects.
Of course. Well, likewise, you're an amazing person to work with. So thank you again, Katina. I really appreciate it. And to everyone watching, I really appreciate you as well. And I'll see you next time. Bye.